Hello and welcome to the Liz Experiment YouTube channel. I'm your host Liz, better known as the Liz in the Liz Experiment, and this is the channel where I record field notes from my journey towards architecting my best life. This week's field notes are still from Fremont Center, New York, my hometown where I will be stationed for the foreseeable future. And this week I talk about a few things as far as what I learned and what I worked on. I learned all about going towards fear in order to eliminate fear. I also worked on setting boundaries and owning my energy. And last but certainly not least, I did a good deal of thinking and acting around failure. So, how about we just get into it?
Life's a foolish game. Do you ever feel the same? Well, maybe we could change. Turn the ship another way.
All right, y'all. So let's just jump right into it. The first thing that I really learned or remembered or kind of like was reminded of this week was the idea that going towards fear, meaning, noticing when I'm feeling anxious or afraid and then looking at what those feelings and asking myself, hey, what am I thinking that is causing me to feel this way? And actually just sitting within that thought pattern makes fear go away. So I know a lot of us are feeling fear and anxiety, and it's at random times. Sometimes it's very consistent and almost chronic, because we're all facing some real life shit right now. We always are, but this is on a global scale. And so I think as more and more of that pops up, because it will, I know for me, I'm a naturally anxious person. I can deny that all I want, or I can work with it, and the way that I've found to work with it is doing what I kind of just spoke through. I chatted through, talked through. Anyway, you get the point. And that being investigating those fears and going towards them instead of saying, ooh, I don't want to feel that way, or ooh, I don't like feeling this anxiety. Let me go get a drink, or let me go, sorry, y'all, that's my default. You know what I mean? Or let me go get on Facebook, or let me go get on Instagram, or do whatever thing is going to distract me from how I'm feeling. Instead, you don't need money for this, y'all. You don't need a therapist. You could just sit still for a second and say, okay, why am I scared? What thoughts am I having that are causing me to be afraid? And can I change those thoughts? And just watching what happens. So I want y'all to do that this week and let me know what happens, because maybe I'm just a freak and it works for me and it doesn't work for anybody else, but I have a feeling it's going to work for you. The second thing I worked on this week was in setting my boundaries. Now, for those of you who have kids, and I know I have friends who have family that have moved in with them during this time as well. I've moved in with family during this time. Boundaries are hard, y'all. Like, who's with me? Right? But I've been focusing more and more on setting my own boundaries. And what I mean by that is if I don't feel like I don't want to say it like nonchalantly, but if some topic of conversation comes up which is agitating to me and is not going to be fruitful because I'm agitated, I'm not going to engage in that. Now, that's very hard for me because I'm a loudmouth person with a lot of opinions. However, I've recognized, and this is where it kind of bleeds into that third thing I mentioned, like owning my energy. It takes a lot of my energy to argue. It takes a lot of my energy to try to get people to think like me, or to understand what I understand. That's not my job. I'm not the universe police. You know what I'm saying? So my parents they love me. I love them. We don't think the same. That's okay. Everybody can be respectful. And my way of being respectful is by respecting myself and my boundaries first. What I've also been doing, put the living situation aside for a second, in regards to respecting my boundaries, and I think y'all have been hearing a lot of this, but I have been saying no to a lot of people, places, sorry y'all, too soon, I get it, but people, of online events and those sorts of things. And this is hard because I've been living a remote working life for a decade. And it feels like now that the rest of the world has to do it, they're like, oh, we can just meet anytime. And And I get that because I've been there. I'm glad people want to meet and have these virtual happy hours. I think it's great. But for me, I can only do so many of those or other online events. And so I've been doing a really focused. I've been really focused. I've been doing a really focused job of, and I'm like, not English. But I have been focusing a lot around saying to myself, does this thing that I'm being asked to do, does this person that I may love deeply, but me talking with them, is that going to deplete me or is it going to replenish me? And I got those words actually from my mentor, Jeffrey. So if he's watching, thank you, Jeffrey. I did read your email. I'm going to respond. But I think that's a great way to frame it, especially in these times when everybody's online and everybody's like, oh, hey, let's just have a 5-minute conversation. But we're all dealing with a lot of stuff. And so I personally need my alone time to deal with that stuff. And so I put those boundaries into place. So asking, how does this serve me? If it's not going to serve me, say no. If it is going to serve me, understand how and go towards it. So that's another action you can take this week. Yeah, that's it. I mentioned within that part of the video that I was also looking at owning my own energy. So that has a lot to do with setting boundaries, asking what's like depleting versus replenishing me, and also noticing when I'm externalizing blame or cause or power. So I think a lot of us do this where we're saying, I can't do X because of blank. I can't go to the store today because my husband has the car. I can't, I mean, that's a real thing, but it's like, I can't clean the living room because, I don't know, my son's toys are everywhere. I can't do focused work because of X. And even those situations, those external situations may be real and they're valid, and what you're saying or thinking to yourself may be valid. What I've been doing is not looking at the negative side of it, like the I am a prisoner, like I am a victim, or I am being held back. I've been trying to look at it like, okay, how can I take that power back? I'm going to clean my living room later instead, but now I'm going to use my time to do X. I'm going to, I can't focus now. I'm going to own that. But you know what? I'm setting up this focus time later and I'm going to give it a try then. Or whatever that sort of solution might be. Instead of being a slave to or a prisoner of my thoughts and my externalization of my power, I'm taking that power back. And that's been feeling really, really good. And so the very last thing I was working on this week, I was listening to, and y'all who listen to this YouTube channel are probably sick of hearing about this podcast, but it's the Life Coach School podcast. I was listening to another episode of it, and she was talking about how to fail. And I've been thinking about that a lot because, well, when I first came back home and moved in with my parents, I saw it as a pretty big failure, right? And so in this episode, which I'll provide a link to down below, but she talks about an example that she was listening to where the individual said, if I'm not failing 5 times a month, I'm not trying hard enough. And I really thought about, and I think a lot of us are like this, but I really thought about, man, I'm so scared to fail that I hardly try sometimes. And so I started to flip the script on that. And I started to say, I'm going to fail at least 5 times a month. And I started to keep a failure journal. And it's super simple, right? It's like failure number 1, this is how I failed. And then I have another column, what am I going to learn from it? Or what can I learn from this failure? And that's given me a lot of perspective. It's helped me fix a lot of my negative self-talk. Like it's helped me fix giving my power away. Like, oh, I failed because of X, Y, and Z. It's like, nah, I failed. I'm cool with it, but I'm going to learn from it and I'm going to move forward from it. So I know it's a lot that I've worked on these past 2 weeks, although sometimes it doesn't feel like a lot. But I hope that my diatribe here is at least helping you to sit and think about what, I don't even want to say that shit, because you know what? Y'all might not have time to sit and think. It's a crazy ass time. However, I do hope that hearing about how I'm kind of tweaking and looking at architecting my best life helps you to do something that helps you and your family and your loved ones. So I think I'm going to end it there this week. I want to give a big thanks to Hans Adam featuring Snowflake for the music that I use in the intro and outro. I want to thank you for watching. I want to hear how y'all are doing, so please comment down below. Let me know what you're working on, if anything, during this pandemic besides just survival. And hey, just survival is a lot, so no judgment. Not saying that I'm not working on that too. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you want to get updates about when new videos are out, don't forget to hit subscribe down below so you can get alerted. Gosh, y'all, I think that's it for this week. Stay safe, stay well, and thank you so much for watching.